On this episode of the I2I Forum podcast, we're speaking with Sofhia Shaas, program manager and deep subject matter expert. We're going to be talking about identifying the common blockers for delivering successful change, job descriptions for change roles, and building an effective change management team, how organizations can improve their delivery, how change managers can work together collectively across the discipline to be more effective not only on the individual projects and programs, but to improve the reputation and results delivered within our profession. Hi, Sofhia. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great, thanks, Marcellus.
Good, good. For those who don't know you, I'm going to give you a moment to introduce yourself so they can know a bit more about you. Over to
Cool.
you.
Hello there. I'm Sofhia Shaas, and I met Marcellus through a company that we both worked for, Marvel Advisory, and I heard him chatting lots about change, and I immediately found him interesting. So this is why I'm here today. I just followed him, and we ended up in this situation. So I'm a change manager. I've worked for about 13 years across over 5 or 6 different FTSE top 100 companies, delivering projects, programs, change, and I guess that's my professional life. In my spare time, I love traveling. I'm vegetarian. I cook relatively good vegetarian food. Um, I like learning. I like learning lots of different things, and teaching myself how to play guitar and swimming and traveling. I travel quite a lot around Europe, and I spend a lot of time reading. So all these amazing books behind me that I conjured up. So
Yeah.
yes, basically I read lots of psychology and spiritual type books and books just about people. I studied social sciences, so I'm just naturally very interested in humanity and why we're here, and all of those big questions. And I tend to bring not just my professional experience, but all of that knowledge and sort of insight into humanity and all of the other lessons that we can learn from different aspects of our life. I sort of see myself as a whole sort of person, and not just when I work. I tend to just bring my whole self to work, my authentic self. So
Well,
yeah.
it's interesting you say that because this is the reason why you and I have gelled since we first met. For me, it's not about coming into a job in this, what we do in change and transformation, as a technical person. It's bringing the person and the humanity because the way I look at it, change management and project management are two sides of the same coin.
Mm.
Somebody's delivering the technical and operational, and the other person is delivering and managing the human. And we can't do the human without being human because it's based on relationship. And that's why I think what we
Absolutely.
do is an art rooted in science. And the art is all those things that you just say that you bring to the table, all your personal and professional development, delivering something that is structured and it can put on paper, but it's all these things of the human engagement, the whole experience, and that's what you do.
And that's why I love what I do, because it's not just an isolated technical skill set. It's a combination of all those different things, and I love people. I'm a people person, and I enjoy supporting humans through some of the most stressful points of their life. It's almost like a midwife. It's sort of supporting
Mm-hmm.
people in the hardest part of their lives, and knowing that we'll get to the end, but there's going to be a journey, and
Mm-hmm.
going on that journey. And for me, that's why I'm still doing change. And after 13 years, and I'll probably still do it for another 7 or 17 years of my life. So I think I
Well,
don't like to sort of make out that it's like a dark art or something
mhm.
that's really complicated. I think a lot of what we do, the best practitioners I've seen are able to take complexity and make it into something really simple, and focusing on the key truths and the facts, and being able to sort of take all of that and guide people through what could be really complicated and risky, stressful stuff.
Well, actually, I wouldn't put it as a dark art, but this is actually what I'm saying is because of what you do and what you bring to the table. Now, for me, I know that I'm the kind of person who I've read all the books behind me, and you're the kind of person to read books, and we're seeking knowledge, we're curious. But we're going into environments where that curiosity has been smothered. Or in some cases, it actually doesn't exist. There are a lot of people there just to, I am here to press this button, press that button, press the other. That's all I'm here to do. This change is interrupting my pattern of pressing button one, two, and three.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily curious. So to me, what you call the dark art, what I just call the art, is you being able to bring all that personal skills to spot those people who just need to punch buttons and help them on that journey. Because we can't make people change. We can simply create an environment where they can choose to change.
Absolutely, but often the reason why people have become like machines, and they've started they punch buttons and they walk in a certain way and they know how to do that, because this is not the fault of the person. This is the organizational structure, and a lot of corporations build jobs to be very controlled and specific and deliberate, and smother the individual's need for thinking, right? So if we look at a lot of processing jobs or telephony jobs, or just administrative jobs, they can become very predictable, and that's often BAU. They want it to be as predictable as possible so you can control things, and you can deliver the same pizza at Pizza Express to the client, so it's exactly how they want it, and that's the expectation. So it's taking people who are accustomed to and have been rewarded for replicating the same results again and again and again by following exactly the same procedure or process, and allowing them to fulfill their true human potential, which is actually, you're a really smart guy, Jim. You just, all you've used is 2% of your brain, and now there's all this other stuff that you can do, and giving people the credit and helping them to see the value of doing that, and supporting them so they feel they can do it and they will do it, and giving them a clear vision of how to get to the place. And I think that's what we do. It's sort of seeing the potential in people, and giving them the credit, because most people are really smart. They just don't have to use much of their brains because they're not paid
Well,
to.
well, with that said, is because
So
there's a couple things here. I am 100% because I'm really trying to boil things down to principles. And as you laid it out there about us being able to lay out the vision, lay out the journey, let them know that this birthing process of this change is going to go through these stages predictably because it's a very human condition. However, I think sometimes we often project our own personalities onto the people in the audiences because I've worked in environments where they don't want potential, they just want the activity. And in fact, I even bring it in. So there's something that a guy, Dominic Kitchen, and I work together. And one of the exercises we have with all these curious people in a meeting, it's like an hour meeting, halfway through the meeting, for them to understand and experience the resistance to change, we'll ask them, okay, halfway through the meeting, okay, everybody, this is a face to face meeting. Get up and move positions. And you'll actually see the resistance. Why am I moving? This is just to stand up and move in a room and change positions. So this is often that people are used to, especially even in a recurring meeting. You'll see that they fall into patterns naturally because of the lazy brain, the brain
it's the
that doesn't
evolutionary
want
brain.
change
Yeah.
because I don't have to think about it. I know how it
It
feels
requires
this side of the room.
energy. It
Yes.
requires burning 5 calories to move to that side of the room, which I should conserve because I don't know where my next meal is coming from. That's the survival brain,
Yes.
isn't it? It's why should I do
Yes.
this unless it's going to feed me or get rid of a tiger, you know?
Yeah. So, and that's part of the thing that I'm looking at now and studying more and writing about and talking about is understanding that we have all the science. Again, going back to my thing of the art, what you do, what you deliver, what I've drawn from you in our multiple conversations is that you're bringing all this to the table in the sense of you understand the human condition on resistance to change that is an intellectual operation for many other people. So they're like, we will encounter resistance. What does that mean? What does it look like in this environment?
Yeah.
In fact, what I like to do and as I deliver it and as I'm educating people around change and doing the A in the ad car on awareness is
Awareness, yeah.
resistance exists even in you.
Yeah.
Hence doing that
It's
exercise
how
of
we're
moving.
wired. We are wired as humans to resist change. It
Yes.
is against our core nature to embrace change because
Hmm.
change brings uncertainty and maybe a
Yes.
threat, you know?
And with that said, is it brings that uncertainty, like you said on the whole brain, saying I need to conserve my energy. But it's also why. Because I'll expend the energy if I understand the why, going back to what you said about having that clear vision that
Yep.
not only motivates according to our vision is to create an ERP system that increases efficiency and productivity. No, the why for me.
That's for the scene. That's for the CEO. That's the vision
Yes.
statement for the CEO. What's the vision statement for Jim, who's
Hmm.
doing his punching in the finance department, and all he does is
Yes.
these accounting processes, and that's it. It's building that vision for each human who needs to feel safe and that
Hmm.
the change is worth their while. Am I being fired once this change goes in?
Yes.
Why would I invest my time in something that results me in being fired? I'd rather just invest my time in securing more, you know, income for myself through another source, or just begrudgingly prevent the change from happening because the longer I prevent it, the longer my job
Exactly.
profile still exists and I still have an income.
That's
So
and that comes to the point of identity to me because again, the conversation we're having is the kind of stuff that's difficult to unpack to a senior leader who has been given a whole bunch of commercial drivers, who has four cards, four aces to play to keep his or her role. You play the ace and you lose it forever. You're out of aces, you're out of a job. So they need to be really strategic on what they're going to really champion. So to unpack all this, what would seem to be on the surface hairy fairy stuff like identity. So having the correct kind of comms person. So as an example, one of the roles they told me, you're pushing against an open door, Marcel's. Everybody wants this change. But then actually I found out somebody in Germany who has been in the company for 25 years, 20 years of working in the company, or 20 years ago, they created a spreadsheet that's now a workbook that runs half of the finance department. They are globally seen as the go-to person. Their identity is the go-to person, that this ERP is going to take away that their identity. Now they're saying on the surface, "Oh, I'm open for this," and maybe they're seen as the SME, and you have them as the global process owner or something. But underneath that, who am I post this change?
yeah,
And unless we can look at it on that individual human, especially at an influencer level, which we call stakeholder mapping, which we call
yeah,
resistance mapping, that's the science part. But the
yeah.
human part is being able to sit with
Forces,
them and
forces
create that level
form.
of
Yeah,
trust for them to tell you
yeah,
what they're afraid of.
absolutely. And if it's the linchpin, isn't it? There's a famous quote by I don't know which mafia guy in the mafia in America, and he said, "Men don't fall over mountains. It is stones that we fall over. It's the people who we least expect or least value, who are very high value, that can trip up the entire process because we haven't given it enough time. And if that gentleman isn't extremely well engaged, then the change will ultimately fail because he has all of that knowledge and he needs to be given that respect that he deserves, and brought into this process. But I don't know. But I've come across a lot of different situations in different organisations where there's so many things that can disrupt the change. It's like everything is trying to kill the change,
Mm-hmm.
and you, as a change manager, sometimes you feel, you're swimming and you're trying to pull this Titanic of a ship,
Mm-hmm.
and it just feels like a very heavy job, and you have to be incredibly resilient and determined and have that belief and also love for what you do, and almost like love for the people,
Yeah.
because in understanding people, and being able to empathize and see
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
perspective, we can make the journey smoother. And I've seen changes fail where none of that has happened, and I've worked in organisations where they've tried to move from a systems thinking way of doing things, and also Lean Six Sigma, slick processes. Let's reduce our overheads, reduce wastage, get from A to B very quickly, so we reduce costs. To a let's get these people who've been doing this for many years to let's go to a service model. So client journey. What is the client feeling when they buy a mortgage, and what is the process of getting them to continue to use our bank for the mortgage services? What are the touch points, etc., and getting colleagues to do that, and being able to get them engaged. As you said, it's they're used to doing this, and getting them to move to all of this is a challenge. But yes, it's a challenge to do that, to change mindset, but are we giving people the support, the time to do that? And a lot of organisations, they try and wedge change in at the same time as BAU happening, but not creating additional capacity for people to learn and
So,
to adapt and to grow, and giving people time to sort of move in the direction we need them to. It's not an overnight process.
so devil's advocate. Why should I give them time? I'm paying them for 40 hours a week, right? We've got to do this regardless. They
Yep.
need to adapt. This is a JFDI situation.
Mhm.
I'm already paying hundreds of thousands of pounds for these change managers to come in and tell me to take people on the journey. Isn't
Yep.
that enough? Why is it not
But
enough?
in the situation that I've described, the organisation has prided itself on minimising resource, right? So it's been really good at reducing costs, and it's a lot of the processes are very slick, and there's no wastage, and they've minimised their staff as a result of that. So now all the clients are moving to other banks who are giving them a better customer journey. So
Hmm.
okay, so you're doing what you're doing and you're losing money. This is the company's predicament. So they either have the choice of let's continue to do things really quickly, which reduces our costs, and then all of our clients move to HSBC or all these other banks
Hmm.
that are out there. They're actively stealing all the customers. Or do we create a little bit of go away from our scarcity mindset, move to more of an abundance mindset, and say, wow, there's all these clients who are available. And if we invest a little bit of time, a little bit of money, and a little bit of effort, we can win back those clients, because the journey that they will experience with us will be on par or superior because we've taken the time to invest. It's that decision. And if they don't give colleagues the time and money to grow and move in that direction, what I saw in that organisation was a large number of those colleagues left and went to the competitors as well. So not only did the bank lose its clients, it was also losing all of these
Team
well
members.
trained, smart people who've been working for them. So it's a choice that organisations have to make. Are you willing to take time and money to make this better, or not? And if you're not willing to put enough time and money into it, then it will fail.
So you used a couple phrases there, and again, I'm kind of for devil's advocate kind of thing. You used about like the scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset. All these things again strike me as just normal language, but to some of the people in leadership, and maybe they're of a generation or a culture within their organization, to where that's hairy fairy stuff. I deal in pounds, pence, dollars, cents. You're talking about a seven-figure investment in stuff that typically you people in change management can't measure, don't measure, right? And I'm the one who's laying down two aces out of my four aces, and I only have one left to back you, and you can't even give me numbers. So,
Well, we can give numbers. The numbers are in the bottom line. So if you look at the bottom line of an organisation that is suffering from attrition, client attrition and colleague attrition, the numbers are there. You're basically hemorrhaging staff. You're spending a fortune on re-recruiting staff, which is a very measurable cost. In addition to losing staff, who then become the offices become environments with high levels of sickness, and there's not enough people to do the work.
mhm.
And I've seen this. I've seen places which aren't doing the right things, taking care of people, and doing those simple
So,
things well, and they suffer the result of, reputationally everyone knows it's a horrible place to work, no one's going to work there, and it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy of um,
so
uh,
how do we say that it's change management that's helping? Because basically, I'm still being devil's advocate.
yeah.
I have my HR person who says that they're doing all this stuff. I have my project management teams that say they're doing this stuff. How are you people in change going to take credit for the fact that, the attrition rate is reduced, etc.?
Well, we can use that as one of our benefits and our benchmarks to say, okay, at the moment, Mr. Smith, you have problems with attrition. It's I don't know, a 20% attrition rate per annum. So you're losing 20% of your staff every year. And where are they going? You can see them popping up on LinkedIn to all of the other banks that are down the road. Okay, so at one of our key um, benefits or change measurement metrics will be reduce the rate of attrition. So we want to aim for a 10% attrition rate within a period, give ourselves a target within a period of 6 to 12 months. And we will then obviously introduce the measures we will undertake to retain staff. So speaking to people, going out there and saying, building an awareness of workshopping, taking key members of staff who are, knowledge holders within the business and understanding why is there a high rate of attrition? Why? Because other banks are offering better packages. Uh, Other banks are moving towards the future, and there's the likes of Revolut and Starling and lots of other banks doing things, other things that the younger members of staff might feel more drawn to because there's the culture of those organisations may be more attractive to them. They offer greater, opportunities for growth and development. There's so many different reasons why people leave. Maybe there's a horrendous manager who no one likes that's been there for years, and we haven't got rid of the manager, so now we're losing everyone because we've just kept this person in who's not really adding value and demotivating people from staying there.
Hmm.
There's just so many different reasons for why
Well,
why people leave, and if we're going to deliver a change, and normally change happens when organisations are between a rock and a hard place. Organisations don't like changing. The reason they change is because they're losing money. And why are they losing money? Because they're not doing the right things,
yeah.
right? So there's so many different scenarios and and circumstances that can feed into things. But if you're scientific and factual, and that's what change management is, you are not a successful change manager unless you have a measurable criteria and a
Hoorah.
point
Hmm.
from which you currently are to where you want to be. That is the definition of a successful change manager. You know.
So I would actually say one of the things there is, how do people spot and identify an effective, to be successful, effective change manager? So if people are writing job descriptions, organizations, what are some of the key things when you're in the position and you're looking to build your change management team? What are some of the key professional or personal attributes that you feel need to be included to get an effective change manager?
Well, if we look back at the definition of what is change management is all about people. So that's what differentiates it from project management. Obviously, it depends on who you are. So, Marcellus, you're asking me what the dictionary definition of change management is, which is a person who manages the people aspect of change. Okay, so then an effective change manager is a person who is able to support people on the journey of change that they need to be on. So that's just the purest definition.
Yes.
But then, as we know, in the industries that we've worked in, change management definition is now very broad. It's like portfolio, program, project management, business analysis, test management. So
Communications, training.
yeah, absolutely risk management. And so when you ask me that question, it depends on whether you're asking me in the purest sense of this is a dictionary definition of a change manager. Our job is to manage the people side of change and help organizations who have people who are integral to their success engaged on a change and able to deliver and achieve the objective or the metric that we defined as a benefit.
So,
That is a successful change manager, a person who's able to leverage people to achieve the objective in
so
that the organisation is just
what do you
defined.
give more weight to from your experience? Somebody who has the personal personality characteristics to lead that change, or somebody who technically I have a certification and I technically know how to deliver change? What would you
I
probably give more weight to?
I think the technical qualification is handy because it filters. Like when there's thousands of change managers floating around, you need some kind of accreditation. So okay, I'm not going to spend 100 years interviewing everyone. I want markers of someone who's able to, you know, demonstrate that they understand the core fundamentals of what change management involves, all the different tools and techniques. That's great. It's just theory, but I think you only truly know if a change manager is good when they're in the heat of the work. So even the interviews are useless. I hate them because it's like, well, I don't really know what this person's going to do when they hit the ground, and it's when you've put someone into the furnace, and whether they jump out or whether they stay in and are able to get things done. That's the point at which you know, and you only know that once you're, I don't know, 2 or 3 months into the process. And the beauty of sort of the work we do is if we're not very good, we will be fired because we're not suited to that environment, and we could be fired hopefully if we're not suited to the precise type of change environment. But change manifests itself in so many different ways in different cultures and organizations. Like a very friendly and happy-go-lucky kind of change manager in one environment wouldn't be respected in another, where everyone's a
Mm-hmm.
bit more somber. And I think interpersonal skills, being able to understand what the organization needs and molding yourself to the shape of what is needed, and being aware of and sensitive to each organizational environments, the culture, and what people need from you, and adapting yourself. It's like with the midwife, you know. There's lots of different people, and each of them needs different things to help them to get through. Uh,
So that's from the perspective as far as that person adapting. So what I'm also seeing there, which is something I've experienced, is that a number of organizations say they're one thing, and then you join and you find out they're another.
yeah,
And that level of adapting, I think this is where in certain roles I said, I don't think I'm good here long term because the personality fit and the drive, even for the fact you
Yeah.
say about like technical,
Yeah.
many organizations, nobody else except that change manager understands the technical. So these organizations said, I need somebody that's experienced in Cotters and in ProSci and they're CMI accredited and blah, 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 blah. They land and nobody knows what they're talking about. So now
Yeah.
you've got these people with this technical skills
Yeah.
and then maybe they can't land because they can't fit in the personality.
Yeah,
You know
there's
what I mean?
many
So
elements to it.
so many moving
These are
parts.
complex environments which
Hmm.
require individuals who are, I think the best individuals are the lizards who are able to sort of
Or
mold
chameleons.
to,
Yeah,
or
those chameleons
chameleons,
kind of
yeah, being
able to
able to,
change.
to get in and be like, right, this environment is very particular, and what aspects of myself can I bring forward to add value?
Hmm.
It's putting on the different hats, and being black hat might not be the best approach in a very soft fluffy environment, whereas it might
Hmm.
be great if you're working in finance and it's all about
Hmm.
the bottom line and managing risk. And so yeah, I think it's not a straightforward response, but I think an excellent change manager is adaptable and able to change themselves to meet the needs of the client.
Mm. Yes.
So people I know, Marcellus, you are naturally how you are in your element. This is how you are. But can you go into an environment which is very different to you
Hmm.
and bring aspects of yourself that the organisation needs you to bring at that point, and recognise what the organisation needs from you? That's the skill.
I think that adds to the next element because this is one of the elements within incremental change management is that I think the approach organizations are best to take right now is to actually move away from the I'm trying to find that unicorn chameleon
Mhm.
and maybe looking at the fact the face of the change needs to be somebody in the organization. So potentially
Absolutely.
bringing
Yeah.
in the contractors or consultant contractors who are able to build capability within the team.
Backstage,
Yeah.
and then having someone who already has that trust and credibility
Yes.
to drive it, and almost holding their hands to give them the wisdom that you've gained through burning your hands and making all the mistakes, so
Hmm.
they don't have to. And having that loop to feed back on and say, actually, I feel like, if I'm the head of IT, but I've never really managed change, but I've got someone in the background who can give me that assurance, and also someone to just bounce ideas off in a safe space before I
Yes.
then take it out to front stage, and deliver this in an organization that may have a lot of challenges. And I think that's the thing with change. It requires a lot of psychological safety,
Yes.
and I think a lot of senior leaders have often been in a position where they've had to make hiring, firing decisions, and change is all about getting people to want to move. And
Hmm.
if a lot of hierarchical organizations, you can just see leaders who are historically used to just telling people to do stuff. And in the change
Yeah.
situation, it's like, well, maybe they're not going to do it because they don't have to. And if they do it poorly, it will negatively affect the leader. So it's having a leader who's able to win the hearts and minds of people, have integrity. So what the leader said in the past, have they done it?
Which is interesting
You
because
know,
if you look at the ADCAR approach, one of the things they do in the change assessment, which is Proxima using their new software Proxima, but it's still the same approach, is assessing the sponsor. How have they led previous engagements? How have they
yeah,
led previous? Because what I actually, and somebody said it out loud, one of the guys that I worked with had been at the company for 27, 28 years. And basically, what he said was like this one particular leader that had been in there that had basically been a thorn in his side. He's like, I've outlasted him and four of his predecessors, right? I don't need to change. They'll change them before they change me. Because that was his resistance. Now, in the meetings, broadly, he was like, yeah, yeah, let me do this. But he dragged his feet because he knew exactly as you said, this failed change will reflect on that leader
Not him.
not on him. So he had built this empire
Yeah.
around him of people that are loyal to him that were just resisting the change, not openly,
And
just
for us, going into an organization, we can see these little pockets of
exactly. And
rebellion,
that's
and
the art
we're
again.
able to sort of see the importance of like actually, this is going to fail if we don't have these very basic, fundamental people or processes, or this understanding has to exist, and that's the wisdom in that situation, as you mentioned.
And
Recognizing.
and this is why my focus has been, rather than being frontline change now, is being that person behind the scenes, working with the people to build capability, capacity, and strengths and confidence in those people in the organization. Because not everybody can take a full dose of Marcellus. It's a whole lot of energy, it's a whole lot of passion. I love what I do, but it's also teaching them what I know and allowing them in the real world to actually implement it. Because I feel that what's actually the greatest inhibitor of change in an organization is that they believe the change methodology is something that they can buy, use, and stop using.
Yeah.
Whereas I believe it's about establishing a culture that recognizes change is always happening.
Yeah.
Change starts and ends with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that getting that adaptability and building vision, building trust, building it starts at such a fundamental level, even down to the language. Something I've been really focusing on for the last like maybe week and a half now is words, meaning, and understanding. And if you think about the onboarding process, many of the organizations I've been in, even Fortune 50 companies, have a poor onboarding process without having a glossary of terms.
Yeah.
So when I
To
say
bring
a
people
plan,
into the fold.
yeah.
Yeah,
So when I say a
absolutely.
plan as an example, the definition to some people is different than mine because mine is a plan and a schedule. It's both in one when I
Yeah.
say plan. Some of them, they see them distinctly, and some of them, it fills them with dread. Some of them, they think the plan is something in PowerPoint. Some of them, the plan is it's too complex. So all of a sudden, when I say we're working on a plan, I'm dealing with different interpretations and perceptions of what the word means. So even saying, as an example, the leader said, I'd like a plan by the end of the week. That threw people into complete disarray because they all had these different meanings. And nobody challenged the leader to say, when you say plan, this is what I plan to give you by the end
The
of the week. And
emperor
them
with
to
no
go,
clothes on.
yes,
It's the emperor with no clothes on. Everyone's afraid to ask. I've worked in that environment where we had senior people, a senior member of staff in IT, and he would sometimes just bark out orders and just say, "Just build this for me." And once I got a request from him, I was in a situation where I said, "Exactly what do you envision as like what is a good dashboard?" So you just tell me
mm-hmm,
roughly what you need it for. What
yes,
is the value in me doing this? And he came back to me and said, "It's not rocket science." And I said, "Well, it isn't, but you're by not saying exactly what you want and being deliberate about what the success criteria is, you're making it into rocket science for me.
well, you're making it into almost
You're
alchemy, the
making me
dark art.
overcomplicate it because
Yes,
now there's so many possibilities. When
absolutely.
all you could have said is, I need the dashboard to tell me these three things:
Yes.
how
But
much
you see,
money we've spent, how much we're about to spend, and what's left over. And I'd be like, great. I would have gone off, and it saves so much time and stress when people can just be very deliberate about what success looks like.
the thing
And
is, from my sorry to interrupt, but one of the things that I've seen in this is the basic requirements, and this comes down to a request being barked, like you said, all the way up to projects that I've seen launched without clear requirements. And a lot of it is insecurity and fear.
yep,
And some of the people, it is they want that uncertainty. And even worse still, there are some people within organizations, it's time for money. If it takes longer, it doesn't matter because I get paid more. Do you see? So when you start getting to the core, that's what I'm saying, the cultural elements that I'm focusing on in my business, that I'm working with the people who've developed incremental change management to make it even more effective, is looking at these foundational things, because that's my litmus test. I actually went to an organization where my first meeting, there was a senior program manager, the head of finance, another finance lead, and then the CFO. And he went in there, and they were basically talking about rolling something out. And what he basically said was, I want this. And they said, well, it's going to take 8 days. He goes, how could it take 8 days? And he pulled out the thing. He goes, that should take an hour. That should take an hour. That takes 15 minutes. I want it done and by X day, just like within a week. And everybody looked around each other, and they were silent. That was my first test. This is a dysfunctional environment
It's
because
not a safe environment.
they are the experts. They put forward an estimate. He told them they're wrong. It's this amount of time. And they just said yes. By the way, it ended up being the time that they estimated, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is where you have the resistance. But the reality was there were a whole bunch of checks that this guy, brilliant mind, by the way, he's the kind of guy who literally, you'd have a spreadsheet that was passed across the table on like an A1. And he goes, wait a second. On this line, you have this sum. On this line, it has a different sum. That kind of guy. I mean,
Good attention to detail.
yeah, but I'm talking super, like probably spectrum level. You know what I mean? Kind of,
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
aware of
so,
numbers.
however, he has to recognize the strengths and weaknesses of his teams and the fears of the teams because they know they have to be exactly right with him. So they don't want to just do an hour on this and hope it's right
Yeah.
because he would tear them a new one. So these are the things that I think the art part is what I had to do was then build this out into a logical thing that I could prove to him it's going to take this amount of time.
Yeah.
Do you see? And the way he go, well, I don't see why it should, but if that's how long it's going to take, then I guess we'll have to plan that in. But
Yeah.
again, that's a science
It's
part,
having the
me knowing
courage
how to
to
build
be
a
the
project
first to
schedule.
say, it is rocket science when you don't explain it to me properly. And
Yes.
it won't take as long just because you said it was going to take that long doesn't mean it will. We have SMEs who know
Yeah.
and have done this and built this out on a number of occasions. And we go, with that. But I love these scenarios and these experiences because they're not just, for us, it's not just the work that we do, but it's just like a general reflection on like humanity and the way
Yes.
people are and what they need in order to, get to where they want to be. And our leaders making their own lives difficult in their own leadership style. Is that going to stop a change landing or.
So, but wow, Sophia, again, this is like what, fourth, fifth time that we've spoken. I really enjoy speaking with you, and I really hope that people got as much out of this as I have, because not only is it just kind of a sense of me sharing, but hopefully making the other change managers, people out there who are like, I thought it was just me, realizing that this is a shared experience amongst professionals, and that once again, working together, we can identify these strengths, work together, and improve the industry, the perception of the industry, at least as a discipline, because how you brought out the things about being able to measure it, I think is one of the key reasons why, to a degree, people are kind of losing faith in the discipline. And hopefully you've identified how it all works together and how it can actually be delivered. So, Sophia, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love talking to you, Marcellus. It just feels like a casual, easy discussion. And I think, as you said, if there's value in us sharing our painful stories and the traumas that we have suffered, but also just wanting to help people who are on a similar journey to us and connecting to other people who have interesting thoughts and ideas about how to change things, I guess, and to
How to
help
actually
organisations
implement all that theory.
implement change and do it in a humane and courageous and intelligent way. So
Yeah. Well, thank you.